Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment of the weekend show. The topic of discussion is the growing insecurity in Nigeria. Since the past decade or more, Nigeria has witnessed security challenges in different parts of the nation, from armed robbery to kidnapping and insurgency to ethnic conflicts, and they appear to be escalating at an intolerable scale. Joining me to discuss this today, we have Ilemona Onoja, a legal practitioner, and we also have Ayo Akanji, who is a research and security expert. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on today's program.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. What exactly is the root cause of insecurity, the escalating insecurity in Nigeria? How do we sum it up? I know there are a lot of issues, our diversity, yes, and unemployment, yes, but what is the root cause of insecurity in Nigeria? I'll start with you, Onoja.
I think you can narrow it down at the end of the day, having spoken about a variety of variables. I think you can narrow it down to two fundamental things. One, the unemployment in this country is simply ridiculous. On a daily basis, we see millions of Nigerian young men and women, educated, employable in some cases, unemployable in others, who are unable to be put to gainful socio-economic use. And so readily or more readily offer themselves up, to participate in crime, on the one hand. On the other hand, I think the inability of our security architecture to identify, prevent, and or resolve cases of crime and criminality enables people to realize that they can do anything and get away with it. Over the years, we have had absolutely nothing that serves as a systematic deterrent to crime on such a large scale. Nothing, right? So, if anything, we've entered into a place where crime and criminality is rewarded in this country, where if you're able to create insecurity or chaos on a massive scale, immediately the dialogue option and the pacifist option is put on the table. How do we pacify you? How do we shift a little bit so that you have a place on the table and then you can keep quiet and stop doing this thing that you're doing? We used to be in a place where, and every country needs to be in a place where its government is the biggest purveyor of violence, where everybody knows that you cannot out-violent, excuse me the use of the phrase, you cannot out-violent government. We're no longer there. The people who know now that if we cause a disruption on a large enough scale, government will invite us to the table, we will have a conversation, we will get slices and shares of the national cake, and then, rinse and repeat. That's how we've gotten here. Now, over the years, Nigeria has never seriously combated ideologies. What is a Nigerian ideology? It simply doesn't exist. It simply does not exist. So when people pick up ideologies, and it has happened repeatedly, there's basically no difference between the Metatsine sect in the 80s, in the late 70s and the early 80s, and Boko Haram. There's no difference. It's a 20, 30 year cycle. It's a cycle that is maybe 20, 30 years apart. But in terms of the sheer fundamentals of an ideology that encourages people to resist statehood, to pick up arms against state, and to reject the institutions of state, there's no difference. Our inability to combat ideology, to promote and foster an ideology that binds us together as Nigerians, is also there in that mix.
I completely agree with you. I think you've summed up the issue holistically. Ayo, I'm sure you've heard of all the different large appropriations made for combating security in Nigeria, from the Goodluck Jonathan administration to the President Muhammadu administration, yet insecurity is still escalating. What then do you think is the solution, given the fact that Onoja has just painted a picture that we are in a country where there are no consequences for actions. So a large group comes up today, 3 of us, we come up today and say, okay, we want to start this violent movement, and we demand, and we have 1,000 followers, and we demand, okay, the government gives us XYZ billion. And at the end of the day, they try to pacify us, you know, by paying us or keeping us quiet. So how then do we ensure that there are consequences for the actions of these perpetrators?
Yeah, I think before I respond to this question, I'd like to correct some few omissions, I guess, you just spoke about, which is the fact that there's no consequence to people's action. I'll give you a clear example of what happened with the IMN. We saw what happened with them when they tried to
That's
stop
the Islamic movement of Nigeria.
When they tried to stop the polity in the country. The government, the full weight of the government came on them. The leadership has been arrested and he's been prosecuted in the court.
Well, that's
so
one perspective. Amnesty will give you a different perspective.
That's one. Yeah, I'm coming. So all I'm trying to say here right now is that every constitutional responsibility of a government is to protect the citizens. First of all, because without that, there's no governance.
Okay, but what's the consequences of Boko Haram's actions? What's the consequences of the Fulani headsmen's actions? The Fulani headsmen that are perpetrators of crime, because we know not all of them are criminals. What's the consequences of the farmers who have also attacked these headsmen's actions? So what are the consequences of Nigerians who break the light, run speed lights? What are the consequences of Nigerians who pollute the environment? So we have to establish the fact that we do live in a society, we do live in a country that there are no consequences for crime. We have to set that premise.
I don't want to fully accept that there are no consequences for crime, because there are examples here, and I'm going to give you full gamut of it. We have various cocktails of crisis in the country, from, like you said clearly, the Fulani headsmen, Boko Haram terrorism, to kidnapping, to cultism, to oil bunkering, what have you not. But for every of them, there's a deliberate action of governance to show its existence, to counter such actions, so that nobody can come, like you just said right now, 3 of us can just wake up one morning and start causing chaos and say, government, call us to the table.
So why is crime on the increase?
It's because you were talking about the cost of security challenges in the country, and there are a lot of them. He called to, which in a way he has some point there, but I think I'll go further to say that we have an issue. We have the manipulation of our fault lines by desperate politicians. That's also one fundamental crisis what happened here. And I will tell you this. First of all, I'm a Nigerian before you lean to any part or whatever it is. So the security of Nigeria is paramount to everybody before you can begin to politicize it. So I really frown on people who try to politicize the security architecture of the country. But coming back to the overview of the security issues in the country, we have to reject the security architecture of our country. But look at the various organs of the armed forces. You have the police right now, for example, dealing with Operation Puff Harder. They have like a joint task force. They have the DSS, they have the Nigerian Air Force, they have the Civil Defense Corps, all working together to comb the entire part. They've seen the successes they've recorded. They've arrested over 2,000 kidnappers along the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway. There's been high-profile breakthrough. One of them is the Magajingeri who was kidnapped in Dora for 60 days. They were asking for $30 million. They got them, they broke their ranks, they got 13 of them. But you see, the thing is that insecurity or terrorism right now is a global phenomenon. And we have a very porous border. And this can be traced to you can look at the entire Sahel region. Some of the guys that were arrested in the kidnapping said they were trained in Libya. And this was what the president was saying long before now. He has said, see, we've traced some of these cases to the fall of Gaddafi in Libya. And this is the fundamental fact. But how's government dealing with this? You have the Lake Chad Basin Commission, which is one arm for terrorism. You have the Multinational Joint Task Force, which is the coming of multiple countries together so they can bring in force to curtail this crisis. Now you have what's happening right now in the Southwest. Southwest now has been taken over by kidnappers too. And the government is saying, fine, we're going to find a special operation that we had success in what we had in the Northwest to have that in the Southwest too. So I think it's crazy, it's hydra-headed, but we have to look deeper. And like you were saying, unemployment is a serious factor also here. So we have a lot of idle youths who are not doing anything, who become a willing tool in the hands of desperate people who are trying to cause chaos in the country. So if you find them to be rehabilitated, they will have no time to do this kind of thing. And this is happening in Northeast already. We've seen people going back to agriculture. And we hope that this investment this will continue.
Do you believe, one second, do you believe the funds appropriated for security reasons are commensurate with the work that the security forces are doing? Do you honestly believe that?
To be honest, I think we need more funding for the military, for the security forces. So even what is being given to them, to me, is actually pittances. It's actually not even commensurated to what the challenges they're facing right now. You're facing a very formidable enemy who are also deploying technology to fight the state. So how much is our budget in a year? Our budget is about $25 billion in a year. Israel, that has about 8 million people, spend over that amount of money on just defense. So we have the entire gamut of it is inelastic. But are we making the right step towards getting there? We are. Nigeria hosted about 52 intelligence chiefs for 2-day summit in Africa, in Abuja. It just ended yesterday. And what's the entire summit? What was it all about? It's trying to see how they understood that you have illicit financial flows out of Africa, about $60 billion. Nigeria accounts for about 40% of that. And this money finds a way sometimes to fund terrorism. So how do we have a central base of information intelligence that we can all cross-border collaboration that we can help to fight and contain this crisis? So it's beyond the Nigerian issue right now. It's a fundamental, it's a regional and a continental and global issue. But what is the government or what is Nigeria doing to keep a house in order? They are doing a lot of it.
Onoja, let me bring you in here.
We do not politicize security issues. We don't. I've been on this station, I've been on this program repeatedly as a member of the opposition to speak about issues. And I always say it, we know who our enemies are. Our enemies are the people who seek to impinge on our constitutional rights and freedoms and to destroy the territorial integrity and sovereignty of this country. President Muhammadu Buhari or the APC is not the enemy. We are very clear about that. There's no politics there. We're very clear about that. That was not the position of the APC before 2015. So I don't understand this thing about we're politicizing stuff. I would also say this. What must be a subject of politics and must be a subject of national discourse. How do you respond to security threats when people die on a daily basis? Your response is always, it is the subject, it is the way we will analyze, we will assess your performance in office. And you cannot, nobody, not the president, none of his aides, or any of the people who lean towards that political party should be able to tell us that the way the president and all the people who are in the ruling party respond to security threats should not be politicized. It is the very fundamental basis of what politics should be. It must be. And it is. Now, speaking about that, this statement about security challenges being a global phenomenon, after the UN bombing in 2012 or 2013, I think it was, after the bombing of the UN headquarters in Nigeria, President Goodluck Jonathan made that same statement, that insecurity is a rising global phenomenon, and we need to plug into a wider global security architecture to ensure that it doesn't affect Nigeria negatively going forward. The APC and this administration, members of this administration, were very, very critical of that statement. How come they're proffering that now? How come the president repeats that statement now? How come something that was unacceptable to you a few years ago, how come it's acceptable to you now? How do you proffer the exact same thing you criticize and not expect that we'll call it hypocritical? Now, the fundamental and what we must realize in this government is, I'm sorry, I don't accept anybody saying to me that there have been any improvements. There are simply no improvements. If anything, things are getting worse.
But do you concede that there are some wins by our security forces? He just talked about the rescue of
Magazine Dora.
Yes.
Yeah, as one of
After how
those.
many days? After how many?
But was he rescued? Was he killed? Did they pay ransom?
60 days.
These are questions that posters you should ask yourself.
In that time frame, how many attacks have we seen across the country? In fact, let's not even leave Katsina. In that time frame, how many attacks have we seen in Katsina State? How many people have died in the last 60 days? In the 60 days of his incarceration, how many people died in Katsina State? Yes, it's all well and good to speak about, and I offer my most sincere condolences to Parub and Fasharanti over the death, over the brutal murder of his daughter. It is all well and good to speak about that. But how many people do we not know their names, who are killed on a daily basis in this country and have been reduced to nothing but numbers? 20 people killed, 50 people killed, 100 people killed, 30 people attacked. How many of those? If we go back a few weeks to the statement of the IGP when he said 1,000 and something people had been killed in the first 3 months of 2019, those are wartime numbers. Those are wartime numbers. I'm sorry, but we cannot look at some of the numbers that we hear in this country on a daily basis, and anybody will proffer an acceptable explanation of progress. It simply doesn't work. And we're here. Where's the consequence to the people who are responsible for our security architecture? The Minister of Interior completed his 4-year term. Did he get fired? At what point? At a point he was reduced to a person who only announced public holidays. Yet, in this country, the director of DSS completed his term. The DG of DSS completed his term.
He didn't complete his term.
Was he ever called and they said to him that because of this security failure, because of the inability of this agency under you to spot or to detect the movement of arms on such a large scale from point A where it is hidden to point B to cause chaos and taken back to point A and hidden again, you are going to be fired? Did that happen? The IG, the former IG, only left office because he reached retirement age. The ministers,
Osasu,
the service chiefs are still in office. At no point has anybody been held responsible for the blood that is being shed illegally in this country on a daily basis. At no point. If anything, let me tell you, and this should scare everybody. Yesterday, there was a meeting that was held in Zamfara State, right? Where the commanders of the bandits who have caused chaos in Zamfara were invited to a parley. Their names are known. Their names were published. Their names were published in the newspaper report, right? They came there and said, because a dialogue has been held, they will stop killing people. What that means, and the Commissioner of Police was present at that meeting, there has been perhaps no greater sign of failure, right, of the Nigerian security architecture under President Muhammadu Buhari. Why? Their names are known. These are known people. These are known people who were invited to the presence of the police and pacified. Similar to what happened in Benue State in Agatu in 2016. Known people were invited to the presence of the police and pacified.
Yeah.
I'm coming. Now, when they were brought there, they were pacified. What that means to me is the failure of intelligence. If they were known enough to be invited for a pacification meeting, how did the DSS and our security architecture not know them enough to stop them from their nefarious
But that's
activities?
also what happened in Goodluck Jonathan's administration with the Niger Delta militants.
If you notice, my first statement said, when I spoke the first time, I said over the years.
Yes.
I don't think that militants should have been invited and pacified. But then again, look at the difference. One was attacks against oil assets. The other is attacks against people.
No, I completely disagree.
I think
the attack against oil assets also affects the people in the community. So I do agree with most of what you've said to a great extent, but let me also give Ayo an opportunity to speak here. You've heard what Onoja has said. I like to be able to discuss the issues, but also prefer solutions. I think it's very important. We can have a conversation for 2 hours about the issues, but it's very important that we focus more on the solution. What's the solution moving forward with politics aside? Onoja, you raised a very, very important point earlier. We cannot politicize security issues. Security is for APC, for PDP, for all the 90-something parties that are, registered in this country. Security is for all of us. So how then what solutions do we prefer for the growing and escalating insecurity that we're facing in Nigeria?
As usual, you see, we're on a live program, and AIT has a vast amount of followership. So it's very good to sometimes to educate people on what's happening. And I want to, there's some things you said here I'm going to differ about.
You have 2 minutes.
All right, cool. Thank you. If you look at a comparative analysis of the government of 2010 to 2015 and 2015 to where we are right now, there's a clear-cut differences in the amount of security challenges we're facing. One I'll come to, we used to have daily bombings in this country at one point in time. That's reduced by over 90%. we accept we have pockets of security challenges. Even
No,
America,
They're
which
not pockets.
don't stop.
No,
Don't say that.
Those are
We
not
have
pockets.
daily, every
We have
day.
no-
see, they are.
See,
I'm coming.
as I
I'm coming.
said, hold on, hold on one
Can I
second.
express myself very
Gentlemen,
clearly
hold on
here?
1 second. As I said, we're not here to politicize
We're
this
not.
issue.
But we have
When
to
I
correct-
introduced the both of you, I introduced you as a legal practitioner. I removed your political allegiance aside. I introduced you as a security expert and a researcher. I removed your political
Absolutely.
allegiance aside. I want you to talk as a Nigerian, right? They're
Yeah.
not pockets of violence. People are being killed daily. Only when an elite is being killed that there's a huge uproar. The vice president is visiting the leader of a Afenifere group, and the president is calling to make condolence messages. But every day, people without a famous name, they're dying. You know,
Absolutely.
everybody should be scared. Elites should be scared. I should be scared. I don't care how many security you have in your house, but everyone in this country is at risk. You know, so I want you to talk as a Nigerian when you're preparing solutions. Yes, the Goodluck Jonathan administration failed woefully in security issues. The President Muhammadu Buhari administration is also failing woefully. People are being killed daily. Daily. And it's very unfortunate that we're here talking politics. So please, when preparing solutions, talk like a Nigerian first before a politician.
I said that earlier, I'm a Nigerian first before any other thing. But I'm saying here right now is that for every action, there's opposite reaction. And one of the facts is our police is our police were under-policed.
Yes.
We have over 300,000 policemen, and that's so small for the population of the country we have.
200 million people.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So already, I think yesterday also the IGP said they're going to they're going to employ about 40,000 special constables. And I find that one of the solutions, because one of the issues right here is that you need local intelligence, and then they're going to pick 50 persons from each of the 774 local governments across the entire country, and they'll be stationed there, and they'll work. They'll bear no arms, but they will help share intelligence with the proper police officers, and they'll also help to track and find out who are the bad guys here. That will actually help in the entire government, because if you don't know what's happening in society, you can't really know how to fight the crime. So that's one part of it. Now, the second part of it is also collaboration. I was telling you one very fundamental part here, which is the fact that this crisis is not just confined to Nigeria. So you have to collaborate with your neighbors. You have to get their confidence. They have to be able to share intelligence with you. You also have to collaborate with other countries like superpowers, like the US, the France, and Britain. And this entire thing has to be activated. We have to give in so much into research and development. We have to give so much into technology, because right now we're going to AI now. There are different ways of sourcing for information across the entire sphere of the country, and also we need good governance also too. And that's why you see policies of trying to see how you can install the financial autonomy to local government is very good, because that way the money goes to local government, and then they can be able to invest for the growth of their people. So this entire thing will affect. So if people at local level are getting what they're supposed to come to them, there's a job for them, you're getting investment to them, I probably think this will also help curtail. And back to you can't run away from politics. Politicians too have to be patriotic.
Yeah.
If this country gets in flame, who are you going to play politics for? Nobody. We can't even be here talking about it in the first place.
Exactly.
So everybody has a moral role and responsibility to play and ensure this country is going to be safeguarded for our interest. And then end of it, now we can come aside and play politics by the side if you want to do so. But you see, like Zamfara, now you see we have three layers of governance. You have the executive, you have the state, and then you have the LG. Now, what you're saying in Zamfara is what I'll term that a state affair to find a solution to this problem. And always the problem, you bring two options to the table, a carrot and a stick. Because the people who are fighting, you hear their case. It's not about just going to kill them over what is their case, are they genuine? Is there any fundamental thing you can look into?
Yeah.
How can government negotiate between that? So that should be taken off the table.
And so far, and I thank you for the solutions you preferred. They are definitely bipartisan, and I truly appreciate that. I would also like to state that in Zamfara specifically, I actually think the strategy that the governor, Honorable Bello Matawale, is implementing is working, because they've caught a number of bandits so far and reduced crime in the recent time. Remember when Yari, the former governor, was in power, we heard of killings every single day in Zamfara, and now it's actually reducing. So I agree that you come to the table with a stick or a card, and that card seems to be working, because they've been using the stick approach, which wasn't working for Yari. So thank you so much for that. 60 seconds for your own solution.
I would restrict. Government itself first has to obey its own laws. Government itself. IMN is a growing and an impending security threat, because government has refused to toe the path of respect for the rule of law. There's a judgment that was given by the Federal High Court that mandates the federal government, that judgment has never been appealed, that mandates the federal government to release El Zakzaki and his wife, for instance, pay them damages of 50 million, reconstruct their house, provide them security, and so on and so forth. That judgment has never been obeyed till today. So when people like Garba Shehu, the SSA to the president on media and publicity, then issues a statement saying, you know what?
The matter is in court.
The matter is in court.
Which he did yesterday.
Which he did yesterday. And the government itself, the self-same government, refuses to obey a court order. You see that by itself, government, as government has done in Nigeria, going back to the 80s, is creating a security threat for Nigerians.
Okay, so government should respect its own rules. Government also should invest in technology, collaborate across borders with security partners to quell the escalating insecurity issues in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Ayo and Onoja, for your time. Up next is the sports segment of the Weekend Show. Don't go anywhere. Remember to join the conversation at Weekend Show NG and at Osasu Igbinedion on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. We'll be reading your comments later on. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on The Weekend Show.